Do you have a preference? Which one do you like?
I think the Mr. Knight is kind of the baddest looking costume I've ever seen. And when I saw Oscar in that, I have to confess to instant envy.
You said that this series, that the tone is like Fight Club meets Indiana Jones, and I agree. What was your first impression to like the scope of this show?
You mean like from reading the scripts?
Yeah, or just when you're hearing about this project, I'm just sort of, what was your like initial impressions of like, oh my gosh, this is what we're going to try to do?
Well, I didn't know Moon Knight beforehand, and I also didn't know what they were going to cover in this show because they're so secretive. But I kind of like, people would be like, Moon Knight's a bit like the Batman of Marvel, but not, you know, he's like really going through a lot. I'm like, okay. And then I started to read the scripts. And by the way, I still would not have understood the scope or what we were going to cover until I came to set, saw the set, saw how incredible Oscar was at like delivering that performance, Ethan as well, being around Muhammad and Aaron and Justin. And then really like, every once in a while, one of our incredible editors, Ahmed Hafiz, would bring us in to like watch some edits quite fast. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, this is really cool. But none of that compares to what I watched 2 of the episodes in London. And with the like special effects and the music and everything, it's just like, I'm really proud.
You should be. You took us on quite a journey. That was amazing. That sounded so cool. I love the look of the show so much. And I can't decide which one I prefer, the Moon Knight superhero suit or the Mr. Knight suit. Do you have a favorite? Do you have a preference?
Yeah, I prefer the Moon Knight, but I prefer the Mr. Knight entrance. That was so, when I saw that, I was like, oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Like Mr. Knight has this like light thing to him that's fun.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk kind of bigger picture here. Other than Mark Spector Moon Knight or Stephen Grant Moon Knight, which other Marvel character do you think would make a great teammate for Layla?
I really like Doctor Strange because I'm very into like the mystical world and playing between dimensions. And I also really love Florence Pugh's character.
Oh, yes. The Yelena, potentially the new Black Widow.
Yeah, I also love that, you know, the way Yelena's been trained is like guarded with emotions. And Layla's like very open with emotions.
Yes.
And I feel like they could like be a good team in that sense.
I agree. Another favorite character other than Layla of mine in the show, I loved Khonshu. I loved what the series did with this character. How would you describe, what type of character is Khonshu?
I mean, like on a metaphorical level, he's like part of the manifestation of DID, right? And how it controls you. But on another note, he cracks me up. Like he is scary, but his lines crack me up. Absolutely. And he's just like, is so fed up with Steven. I think that's great.
Even within the conversation of DID, even the way you described him was like, it kind of fits into the entire theme of what the show is, you know, talking about all the different aspects of us. Yeah. I think it was great. May, congratulations on the show.
Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the last 2.
I cannot wait to see it. I can't wait for everybody to watch this show and to really geek out about how awesome it is. So congrats. Thank you so much for talking to me. Have a great rest of your afternoon. Thank you, May.
Thanks, you too.
Ethan, I'm so happy that you're in this show. I'm a huge comic book nerd and I love these movies and shows, and was so happy to find out that you were cast in this series. I'm glad that Oscar called you. My first question for you is, I think that the best villains, especially coming from a comic book world, are some sort of inversion of the hero. So how would you describe Arthur Harrow in relation to Mark Spector Moon Knight?
Well, you and I speak the same language then. I always feel like the villain's job is really to be the hurdle that the hero needs to on his journey to becoming fully realized hero. And so if the Moon Knight is inconstant, then the villain needs to be constant. So I kind of started seeing him as more like a sun figure. And so I kind of came out, I thought he should have long hair like a lion, like a sun, you know, and if he's a fractured person, then I needed to be really whole and gentle and kind, and at least seem that way. And that his secret, of course, is that he's a little bit more like the Moon Knight than knows. So he has this broken glass under him. You know, so and because Moon Knight as a comic doesn't have a definitive villain.
Yep.
We were kind of, carving our own path. And because the limited series is a different kind of canvas than a feature-length film.
Right.
It needed to be sculpted differently. And so I just built it around Oscar, about what Oscar needed for this journey, because, you take whatever hero you want. You can't have the Lex Luthor or the Joker or whatever. Can't exist with a hero who's also insane. Right. I needed to have like a villain who was sane, a villain who was holy, and so that's how I worked on it.
Yeah. Well, it came across. I love what you guys created. I love this character. I think he's so menacing and so cool. He also has, maybe outside of one detail that you mentioned, the most comfortable costume, I feel like, out of everybody in the cast. I love the look of the show. A very comfortable costume. Speaking of the costumes, I can't decide which one I like more. The Mark Spector Moon Knight superhero suit or the Mr. Knight suit. Do you have a preference? Which one do you like?
I think the Mr. Knight is kind of the baddest looking costume I've ever seen. And when I saw Oscar in that, I have to confess to instant envy of just how cool he looked. And when he pulls the nunchucks out and he's kind of in a white tuxedo and black, I was like, that's just truly badass.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, hopefully you'll be able to make it to like a big Comic-Con or something someday. And an actor such as yourself, a lot of times I like to go anonymous. Just go as Mr. Knight, Ethan. Just do that.
Right. I could just go in that costume. And yeah, that's a good idea.
Call the guys up and be like, can I borrow one? I want to check out this comic book convention. Other than Moon Knight, what other Marvel hero do you think, because we're talking about creating that hurdle, what other Marvel character do you think Arthur Harrow could take on and would be a good match for that character?
I'd love to go toe-to-toe with Fisk from Daredevil. I'd like to face off with that D'Onofrio character.
Oh, yeah.
Genuinely terrifying. And I think Harrow and Fisk together would be an interesting meeting of the minds.
That would be amazing. I don't think it's ever happened in the comic books because Harrow only appeared in one issue. So you guys, let's make this happen.
We got to plant that in Kevin Feige's mind so he can make that happen for us.
Absolutely. He's back in the mix, so it's a possibility. Ethan, thank you so much for talking to me today, sir. Have a fantastic rest of your afternoon. I really, really appreciated it. Thank you.
My pleasure, man.